Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. You are here today for Ohio University's online graduate business certificate virtual fair. My name is Kimberly, and I'm a program specialist. So today I was going to be your moderator. So there's just some housekeeping things that I wanted to point out to you. I see some of you are already using that question and answer box at the bottom or the side of your screen. Feel free to push your questions through, regardless if your certificate is being talked about now or a little bit later. We have our faculty members standing by live, and they'll be certainly able to answer those questions. And if we see some good ones, we'll be sure to answer it to the full group as well. And then we also have our group chat function going on, where I'm moderating that as well. So I'd love to hear where you're from, what you're interested in, what you're doing. And I'll be posting some questions throughout the evening. So this evening, we have several of our faculty leads joining us for each certificate, as well as our Assistant Dean, Carrie Lehman. And we're going to just get started. Each of the certificates will have about 15 minutes of content, so feel free to come in and out as much as you'd like. All right, so on the screen now, you should see some reasons why now is a great time to pursue a graduate business certificate. I mean, if you're thinking about pursuing anything involving graduate school, a certificate is a great starting point. Not only is it a great point because it's so much faster to complete, but you can finish them mostly in 3 to 4 classes. They're quick, they're stackable, and many of our classes and certificates apply to a full degree. We'll certainly talk about that a little bit later. Employers have such an emphasis now on upskilling, and as the job market gets a little bit tighter in these times, we know that one way to show and stand out from the crowd is to show graduate work and how you yourself are preparing your career and your skills to be the best in the business. And one more point here, if you're getting a certificate through Ohio University, you're really getting the same caliber of work, faculty interaction as our on-campus programs. Many of these classes are taught on campus as well. So that online factor, you're doing it at your own pace. You're certainly getting the interaction between students via our discussion boards. And it's just being online, which is now the only way to be in class. So certainly one of those things that makes a lot of sense for the time that we're in right now. So Assistant Dean Lehman, do you have anything to add about that?
Yes, I would. Hi, everybody. This is Carrie Lehman. And, I would say as you're considering a certificate program, think about what you're really looking to accomplish. Kim mentioned earlier that our certificates are, they generally apply towards degree programs should you wish to continue. There are really a wide variation of what certificates are. There are a lot of certificates out there that are not for academic credit, so it's a quick, maybe technical training, but it can't necessarily be applied to a graduate degree. The certificates that we offer are indeed for academic credit. So, if you're taking 3 or 4 courses, you will earn 9 or 12 credit hours, which can be applied to a certain number of our master's degree programs. So all of the certificate programs that we're going to be talking about today, in one way or another, can be applied to at least one, if not more, of our degree programs. The other thing that I would just like to mention is that not all online programs are created equal either. So when we think about our online certificate programs, these are courses that live not only in these certificate programs, but they live in our degree programs, and they are taught by our graduate qualified faculty members, who are the same faculty members that teach courses here on our Athens campus. They teach in our MBA programs and our other graduate degree programs. So you'll be directly interacting with our key faculty members. Many of them have actually designed the courses that you would be going through in a certificate program. So with that, I will hand it back to you, Kim.
Thanks. That's what I really love about these certificates. Our faculty really stand out. You know, sometimes with online programs, you're really just teaching yourself. You get your syllabus, you get your coursework, you get your reading, and that's it. You're just supposed to submit assignments. But here at Ohio University, it is the exact opposite of that. You have faculty interaction. Again, I mentioned those discussion boards, and I truly mean it when I say those are discussion boards. There's so much fostered learning and thought-provoking topics that are produced on those discussion boards that you really don't feel like you're at home by yourself. Like, yes, technically, I guess you are at home by yourself, but some of these classes have such strong fellow students as well that they build networks upon each other where people are meeting up at graduation and meeting each other for the first time, but feeling like they're best friends. So I do have to say, if that is what you're looking for, a truly graduate experience that is online, so it is flexible for you, but doesn't feel totally online, then this is the way you'd like to go. So great job. Great, just moving on here. These are our highlights for today on the screen here. We will be deep diving into each certificate very shortly, but as of right now, we have 7 online graduate business certificates and maybe a few more down the pipeline. So just make sure you stay tuned if you do not see something that interests you here. But another great thing about our College of Business at Ohio University is that we are accredited by the AACSB, which is one of the top ranking business accreditation boards in the nation for sure. So you can be rest assured that the graduate certificate that you get has merit in the workplace for sure. And as we mentioned earlier, again, each certificate has a little bit different length, but most of them can be completed in 3 or 4 classes or 21 weeks if that is what you seek. And as we mentioned earlier, most of them also stack into either our Master of Business Administration, our Master of Business Analytics, or our Master of Science in Management and Leadership. And we will discuss those as well as we get through each certificate. All right, here we go. So just thinking about costs, especially now in this time of great uncertainty, we actually recently got some great scholarship opportunities for Ohio University alumni, our student veterans, and members of the military, as well as our Ohio University corporate partners. So at the very least, if you're in the state of Ohio, we're looking at a $825 per credit hour cost. And again, most of our certificates are 9 credit hours, so I'll let you guys do some math about that. But rewinding just a bit, the scholarship opportunities that we have, they're automatic. So if you are an Ohio University alumni at any point, so like if you were the undergrad 10 years ago, it's an automatic scholarship of $1,500 off of your first online graduate business certificate, which is fantastic. And any of our partners as well. So if you want more information about that, certainly I'll have our contact information up at the end of this, but all you have to do is apply, really, and that's how you'll get that information. So with that being said, I know we are running a little bit earlier than normal, but I do have a funny feeling that the Business Analytics Certificate is what a lot of you are here for. So with that, I'd love to remind you about that Q&A box at the bottom, but also would like to say hello to Dr. Bill Young, who recently won an award as an outstanding faculty member at Ohio University. Dr. Young is our Business Analytics Certificate Faculty Lead, and I would love to hear what he has to say about the certificate, our coursework, and some wonderful things that we've got going on. Dr. Young, take it away.
All right. Thank you very much for that introduction. First of all, I want to say good evening, everybody. I'm certainly really ecstatic about the participation level of tonight's event. It's really great to see so many people engaged in tonight's event and give you the information that you need to make a good decision. So Just good evening and thank you for coming. So when I reflect back on the question about, why would you want to pursue a business analytics certificate and or maybe later a degree, the first thing that honestly comes to my mind is why not? So data is being collected at such a rapid rate. It's influencing the way we do business in every industry that you can possibly imagine. So with the advent of smartphones, with apps that we use on those devices, with even something as kind of simple as going to a grocery store and using your card, whatever it is, we have information that can really supplement and support really intelligent decision making that really creates an opportunity for a business to make a competitive advantage or create a competitive advantage for themselves. So, it goes back to the old adage of writing, reading and arithmetic. And arithmetic is finally having its presence now with analytics, where it's been a little bit dormant over the years. And primarily the reason for that is just the software that we have, the complexities of the software that has been simplified in a nature that we can harness its capability. So those are really some of the founding kind of things of why business analytics is emerging. So, again, business analytics is influential within any industry that you pick. So I work with students that are coming across the board from, librarian science all the way to sports management, maybe operations, healthcare, and everything in between that are leveraging data that they're collecting from their organization to make better decisions. So in terms of what I see as our audience, there's really two primary categories that one would fit in. One is somebody that's just coming out of a bachelor's program. Let's face it, business analytics is a new program. When we first started, we were one of 17 programs that were established first in the nation of bringing in analytics to a business AACSB accredited institution. So when it comes down to the opportunities and where it comes from, what you might have had through a bachelor's program, or even what you had through a bachelor's program a number of years ago before you have your experience, it is a new program. And if I speak upon the fact of the two audiences, one, I see this certificate program being very meaningful for somebody directly out of a bachelor's program that didn't have the experience of harnessing courses or developing the ability to learn data science, if you will, to really take that advantage. Because at the end of the day, there's been numerous studies presented of how in the nation, the demand for analytics is certainly outpacing the amount of students higher education is graduating with the necessary skills. So you can really start out your career differentiating yourself because you've taken the analytics certificate and you have those skills. You know the capabilities of analytics that will lead your organization to the next level. Every organization is going to harness data. Data is not going anywhere. Data is certainly something that is present, that is not a fad by any stretch of the imagination. We're going to continue to collect it. We're going to continue to collect it and use it at unprecedented levels. And an organization in today's environment needs to have that ability and competitive advantage for sure. Now, the second audience, I would say, is the person that has graduated with a bachelor's, several years ago, that has been in a working professional environment for, let's say, 5 to 7 years, who didn't obviously have courses available or programs available in analytics when they were in school. You're going to be asked to lead your organization, or you have the opportunity to lead your organization through the analytics initiative, which is being seen predominantly throughout industry. I mean, again, I don't care what organization you work with or what industry you're coming from. Data is prevalent. Data is used to augment decisions. and hopefully reduce the risks and the uncertainty about those decisions where you can propel your company to its highest level of performance. So really, those are the two audiences I see in terms of who would be interested. And of course, we have full graduate programs related to analytics, more specifically speaking about our Masters of Analytics. We also have our MBA with an analytics concentration, which might interest you as well, but I'll try to keep it focused on the certificate level. It'll definitely give you a step in the right direction of harnessing, understanding the capabilities within analytics. So with that being said, I'd like to jump to just a high-level overview of the courses. If you look at Gartner and other consulting-related entities, I guess, out there, they define analytics as descriptive, predictive, and prescriptive analytics. And there's also some supporting roles within analytics. The first class you would take if you were in the certificate field of business analytics is descriptive. And that, by the way, is one of the fields that most companies have as part of their integral operation to how they conduct their business. It is the charts, the figures, the summaries, the numeric, very basic numeric summaries, even all the way to maybe advanced dashboarding. And it takes a lot of business knowledge, a lot of subject matter expertise to actually know so much about your business that you can actually interpret those charts, tables, and figures and whatnot to make a decision. So that's the first level, and we will start you out at that level. And, just a thought came to my mind as I'm saying that, a lot of people, and my experience of talking with students or prospective students are like, well, is this degree right for me? We will start you in a path and in a course, as it were, in a way that is achievable. It is something that is consumable. It is something that you can take, and even if you don't have the background, because I get a lot of questions about, well, I took statistics, for example. It's always kind of the black eye, if you will, of analytics. I took it, many years ago or recently. I didn't quite understand it. And I would say we are full of faculty that really pride themselves on teaching. OU is, in my opinion, all about practical teaching experiences and the quality of education that you get that is a practical way that you can immediately have a return on investment of your education and any kind of financial commitment that you might have. And that's one thing I actually enjoy reading the most about my evaluations is that, hey, at no surprise, the things you're teaching, I can, not even at the end of the course, I'm able to apply what I'm learning now into my business and organization. And, quite candidly, I look like an all-star because of it. So that all starts at a descriptive level. Then it gets into more, dare I say, interesting or, perhaps selfishly my area of expertise. And the thing that really sparked my interest is predictive analytics. What kind of data can we capture from the past? Even if the past is a microsecond with financial trading, even if the past is several quarters of my organizational input that I might collect in my business, whatever the case may be, whether it's very recent or maybe a few years from today in the past, what can I collect from that information? What can I learn from my customers? What can I learn from my processes at my organization, from a service level, from a manufacturing level, whatever it is? What can I learn from that? Because I expect the things that I have witnessed in the short-term past will be the same in the short-term or long-term future. So that's what predictive analytics is. It's much like the weather. Hey, we have this going on in certain states, certain counties, and we expect that behavior to continue and actually trend through our county or something of that nature, and this is what we expect. Well, it's the same thing with service operations. What kind of customer demand do we have? How many products do we need to make? What is there a growing trend of this product that we offer? Is there a declining rate? What is it about this customer that makes them likely to purchase our product? I mean, so many examples can be made about looking at the data that you've been able to collect and using that in an intelligent way to redefine the strategies that your organization makes in the future, whether that's short-term or long-term. It really depends on the scope of what you're trying to set out to do. So predictive analytics is something that, is near and dear to my heart and interest. And then it gets into prescriptive analytics, which I equally love as well, because it really hits on to why would somebody want this degree, or certificate. It comes down to critical thinking, quantitative reasoning, problem solving, all of those things. All of those things are very highly sought after by industry today. So analytics is a great supplement to whatever subject matter expertise you have. If you're a marketing person, analytics is right for you. If you're operation, analytics is right for you. Every single thing that you can imagine, data is involved. And those who have the ability to analyze data are heavily sought after. And again, you look at reports that are not by, Ohio University, they're by major institutions of the world, for example, Tableau, Gartner, and other entities out there. I mean, the rate of which we're, graduating students with the necessary skills to lead organizations, we're just not graduating them in a rate that actually meets the demand. So this is an opportune time. Perhaps, the analogy is like taking an opportunity at an IPO level of investing in Amazon when it was so cheap and watching it grow. That's the same analogy I can make with analytics in your career. The trajectory of your career will be altered because of analytics. Then there's some supporting roles, BI, business intelligence, or the automation aspect, which, dare I say, is programming. So a lot of the concerns are, well, I don't have the stats degree. Don't worry about it. We will take you through a course and a sequence of courses that will take you from assuming you don't know anything about business statistics and probability to a competent level that you can actually leverage that and harness that capability to a meaningful business decision level. BI enables all that analysis to take place. Companies are used to collecting this information in a way, but they don't know what to do with it. That's where you come in. You can actually manage the data sets. You can actually draw insights and prepare that data for a descriptive, predictive, or prescriptive environment. And then it's like, okay, we got something. Then it's the sort of final phase. It's the programming. It's the automation. And I don't care if you've ever taken a programming language before. And quite frankly, I don't even care if your discipline in your bachelor's program is related to engineering or something of that nature. I want students that have the drive to learn this and understand the value. And if you have those two, you'll be fine. So a programming course with somebody with no prior knowledge of programming, that's fine with me. We will take you through a course. We have excellent instructors and faculty members that will take you through the beginning to a point where you can harness the power of analytics and really separate yourself from your peers, to be, maybe not even peers, your other colleagues in your organization. So in terms about the experience, I've kind of highlighted a little bit of that before, but OU is different. And, I look at other programs. I'm the director of our online MBA program, as well as our online MBA which is our analytics program. I constantly look at programs, and when we're developing that proposal of what our program looks like, what our certificate programs look like, what does our audience look like, what skills do they need? I looked at many programs, and I can say one of the things I always come back to is how our program was built. I know when I look at others, they were built in sort of an ad hoc way, which took courses that were easy to take from different departments, different colleges within an institution, university, if I will, that it was the easiest for them. Because I can tell you, it is sort of a painstaking process to go through, department level meetings, college level meetings, university level meetings, state meetings to get new courses, new programs instantiated. But we've done that. We looked at it like a clean slate and said, what is the business professional that may have not had any experience in analytics whatsoever? What is the right path? Not what is the convenient path. And we have done that. So I am really happy with the support we have received from the college and the university and actually state level, because we've got some initiatives and innovations in our program that you won't see elsewhere. So, I am a homer. I'm biased for sure, but I really like what we've done. And I've got a cough, so I'm going to pause for a second.
That's all right. I appreciate that, Dr. Young. You can definitely tell how passionate he is. We have been getting a bunch of questions on here, and I just wanted you to see, maybe we could touch on some of the program system agnostic or certain applications that students would be doing just in the certificate, because I know we have the full degree, but in the certificate, is it agnostic? Tell me more.
Oh, great question. And I was able to get a drink of water, so I'm ready to go. I don't know if I took a single breath along the way. And, that's the great thing. It's not only me that's super passionate about analytics. It's all of our faculty. As a director, I wouldn't choose a faculty to teach our courses unless they're super passionate about it and have your best interest in mind. So in terms of the applicability, I always struggle with this because analytics is everywhere. I've mentioned, things like library sciences. I mean, why would you expect that there's an application of library sciences and analytics? Well, it's there. Trust me. The ability to take information and make better process decisions or priorities amongst your business is there. So if I just had to answer, what are the key areas of analytics, I would say operations management is one of those key influential areas that have adopted analytics sooner than others. Marketing is certainly an area because you got to know what your customers are doing, are thinking, and if you're going to spend money on any marketing initiative, you want to target the best possible demographic that you can. So it goes to search engine optimization, it goes to mailers, if you will, of sending them information. Everything you do is time and money, so you want to use that as effectively as you can. And then all the way down to finance, and not to say that's the lowest form, because certainly, financial modeling and understanding the variation within financial structures and portfolio optimization and things of that nature are certainly prevalent. Even sports, on the field statistics about knowing what a football player will do from college to pros, whether you're deciding of how to manage your event that you have in a sporting environment or anything similar, a hospital, knowing how you staff your basically your workers, or how you arrange your facilities, or how many beds you need, or how many, this and that or the other thing that you need within an organization. All of that can be summarized by data. And, there's a cloud of information there, and we're here to kind of wave your arms and kind of unclear that fog and illuminate the information that is hidden within that information stored in data, that you can make better decisions. So, I struggle to answer this question because to me, it's one of those obvious things that anybody out there, I don't care what your past degree is or your current organization or roles relate to, everybody can benefit from a deeper knowledge of quantitative problem solving and reasoning and things of that nature to lead your organization to the next level. So, I can be more specific in the operations class, prescriptive, if I were. We deal with how do you actually allocate resources. You want to make an investment to increase your rate of return by decreasing your risk. You make widgets, gadgets, gizmos, and thingamabobs. Well, how many should I make to actually maybe meet demand, but also keep in mind the bottom line of my profit? You know, there's competitive strategy here. The customer wants this, the manufacturer wants this. You know, how do we balance those things to where we're making a good decision across the board? So, you know, illuminating that gray box is what we would call it in a predictive sense. Illuminating that data, removing the fog, analyzing your data properly will support any business decision that you make, and I'm convinced of it. We have faculty across the board that have extensive research experience, that have practical work experience in terms of consulting and other engagements that are teaching in our program, and I'm happy to say that. So, you know, to summarize everything, and I know, you know, we have a lot of certificates, so I'll try to wrap it up here, and I'm definitely looking forward to your questions, by the way. You know, it comes down to that quantitative reasoning and problem-solving ability, and we will guide you through a program that basically assumes that you either have forgotten or didn't learn what you needed to learn in prior classes, more specifically business statistics. And through a certificate program, we will start that sort of maturation of skills and understanding of why business analytics is important. So we will go through that Gartner definition of predictive, prescriptive, and predictive analytics. And if you want the option of a BI course of managing data, which is ever quintessential to analyzing data, you'll have that option too. So as a result of taking a certificate program, you will be able to stack your credits, if you will, reuse your credits from a certificate into a program like the MBA. The MBA with business analytics would be the most advantageous because you can use and reuse, I should say, more credits. But if you chose another concentration, you can certainly do that. And it certainly leads to taking advantage of our Masters of Business Analytics later, because you can use all the credits that you earn through a certificate in that program as well. So again, maybe long-winded. I hope my passion sort of rings through and I'm reaching you, but certainly willing and look forward to your questions that I can help you answer. Feel free to, you know, engage me an email, or maybe we can even set up a telephone conference or call, I should say, as to whether this degree is right for you. I love talking to students, and I kind of love peeling back that sort of onion of whether this is, because there's multiple layers within every person, and it's hard to give generalities to everybody, but you know, at the end of the day, you know, analytics will empower you, and that's the thing that I covet the most, is sharing my passion of analytics and how you can enable and propel your career in the next direction.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Young. Now, Dr. Young will be sticking around, so if you have any specific questions, feel free to pop those into the question and answer box, and he'll make sure to see those as well. So thank you so much, Dr. Young. Moving right along here to our Business Venturing and Entrepreneurship Certificate. We are joined today by Professor Paul Benedict, who has a lot of real-world teaching, real-world actual work experience, which is something that I definitely appreciate. So, Professor Benedict, are you on the line, and could you talk a little bit about this Business Venturing and Entrepreneurship Certificate?
I am indeed. Thank you so much for that introduction. I hope everyone is doing well out there. I should just start by saying I know that these are challenging times, and I hope everyone is doing well and staying safe. You know, as a transition from Bill's really good discussion of the analytics certificate, you know, business venturing and entrepreneurship and the entrepreneurial mindset are very much data-driven. And, you know, especially now in this time of great uncertainty and challenges in the economy, thinking about problems as opportunities, identifying creative solutions to those problems, testing those ideas, in a lean, fast, resource-efficient way, rallying stakeholders to your business case, to secure the resources that you need to implement those solutions. Those are skills needed by any organization and will make you valuable wherever you are. And so our approach in this certificate is to think and teach in each of the three contexts of the entrepreneurial mindset, whether that is innovating inside of a large established organization or even a smaller established organization, whether that is starting your own business and innovating that way, and whether that might be even developing a social venture. One of the things that Bill mentioned that is particularly important to me as well and to us is that, our approach is that you ought to be able to apply the lessons you learn in the business venturing certificate that day in your work. That we want the way we do it, how we deliver it, how we're asking you to apply the concepts to your own ideas, to your own circumstance, sharing those ideas, that circumstance with your classmates, not just learning from us, the faculty, but learning from each other. One thing that we're particularly proud of in these courses is that, while this is not to abdicate our responsibility to teach at all, and we take, as Bill described, we take great pride in how we teach the courses and how we engage with the students and make it feel like we're there together in so many ways. The other thing that is critical is that you're going to have the opportunity to learn from, engage with each other in this circumstance, in these courses, and it's amazing to me the experience, the perspective, the insight that our students bring to each other in this program. There are a lot of people have ideas about entrepreneurship and what it is and what it isn't. There is a fairly common sense that it's risky. And while that can be true to a certain extent, the most successful innovators, the most successful entrepreneurs are really not wild risk takers, right? We are managers of risk. And, back to my earlier point about developing ideas, testing them in lean, resource-efficient ways, getting feedback, improving, running another test, experimenting, and doing it in a way that reduces risk along the way, so that you're not wasting precious resources, both time and money, right? Which are both very limited, and certainly now in the context of the economic challenges we're facing, really across industries, being able to test ideas and adapt and perhaps pivot and do something new in ways that are resource efficient becomes absolutely critical. In the individual courses, there are three. In the first course, I should add, by the way, as I get into this, you do not have to take these classes in order, but I will describe them as such. You can take them in any sequence you'd like. In the Managing Innovation and Corporate Entrepreneurship course, it is very much case-based and discussion-based. So you'll be reading articles, examining cases of how businesses innovated, what they did, what worked, what didn't work, how would you do it, their responses to different circumstances, how might you apply lessons from what another company did to your own experience. And so that is the nature of that course, where it's evaluating, looking at, considering what others have done, and then thinking about how you might apply it. In the next course, Ideation and Business Models, it is very much about developing the techniques to generate lots of ideas and hopefully that in the process of doing that, there's some fun involved too. So we go through a variety of ideation exercises, a variety of idea sharing among classmates. You will develop your ideas a bit, test them with each other, get feedback. In that class, you develop a novel idea, something new in each of the three contexts. So one being corporate entrepreneurship, one being a startup, and the last being perhaps a social venture, which could be a not-for-profit or a for-profit business that has a social mission, and then pitch those ideas, develop the business models around them, and pitch those ideas to your classmates, as if they might be investors, as if they might be stakeholders inside of your organization. And then in the third course, New Venture Creation, we take typically one of the ideas that you developed in the Ideation of Business Models class and do a deeper dive, a focus into that one to really start writing a business plan for how would we launch this. And so, what are the resources that you would need? How would you test it? Who's the team that's going to execute? What's the competition look like? To Bill's points, what data do you have to back those ideas up? It's not just your opinion. How can you give reasons to believe that this proposition you're suggesting can work? I will say that in the class that I just finished last week, I guess, as I'm thinking out loud about this, there were a pretty interesting mix of concepts that the students developed in the class. There were and actually an even mix of students developing corporate innovations, things that they wanted to implement at their current companies. Another handful that were more of the traditional startup, where somebody might want to start a company of their own, and then another even distribution of students working on social ventures. I will say that the things that the students were able to accomplish in a very short period of time were frankly mind-boggling to me, particularly given the context of the challenges that everybody's facing now, and having the shift to work from home during the class. The students' resilience, their hustle, their drive, their passion for their ideas was really inspiring to me, and it excites me every time that I get to teach this class and engage with students this way. There were, as I'm thinking out loud, one of the concepts that a student developed was for a fairly radical reinvention of one of his existing company's core product lines. It is a fairly substantial, large, established company, more than 500 employees, tens of millions of dollars a year in revenue, highly profitable. But the student recognized that they were facing competition from some lower cost, lower quality providers coming up market to attack them. They were they are the leader in terms of quality in their space. And the students' idea was to shift their business model from selling a very expensive piece of capital equipment to making it a service that would be more accessible to more customers and expand the market and beat the competition, not just on quality but also on price. And what was interesting in the work that he did is that he discovered that the customer's willingness to pay was high enough that the lifetime value of the customer to the business was higher in this new business model than it is currently in their, sell the expensive piece of capital equipment up front. Spreading out the relationship as monthly payments or transactions on use over time wound up being a much more attractive business. And now he's actively pitching that concept to the leaders in that organization. He's gotten their attention because they see the challenges too, and we're looking for solutions. So, that's just one example. But I would just say that just like Bill, I love this stuff and get totally fired up to work with students. And I'm learning from students on a regular basis too, which makes it fresh and exciting and fun for me. So I hope that's a fair description, and I'm certainly happy to hang around and answer questions as they come up.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Professor Benedict. Now, this one is also a great starting point for our MBA and stackable into our Master of Science in Management. So if you are interested in learning more and have a few more questions for Professor Benedict, feel free to pop them into our question and answer or our chat box. So thank you so much, sir. Just moving on here, right now, I am so happy that we are joined by our chair of the finance department, Dr. Andrew Fodor, and he will take us through our finance certificate. Dr. Fodor?
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So the finance certificate, it involves 4 courses, which I'll talk about in detail, and it's geared towards giving you the skills to either make a shift in your focus in terms of your career, where you have some, you have a good degree, you have a good background, but you don't quite have the financial education required to get you into that role you want. So maybe an entry-level, mid-level role. Or if you're already with a company and you want to get promoted, but you don't have the finance experience, maybe oversee a team that has a heavy finance focus, or some financial roles within the team to help you get that boost to get into that position. I think this is a good starting point with respect to the curriculum to accomplish either of those things. It does have it is slightly focused in corporate finance. The first class listed there, managerial finance, is corporate finance, and the last class listed is advanced corporate finance. We do have a corporate finance focus in this certificate, which I think is most appropriate. Getting into the investment world, making that shift to the investment world or that shift within your company, that's going to be easier to accomplish with corporate finance, and that's why we chose to have this certificate have the focus it does. As the slide says, and in line with having a corporate finance focus, capital budgeting is emphasized because capital budgeting is ultimately the most important decision a company makes. You have a finite amount of capital. You have to choose how to deploy that to buy productive long-term assets. And what we heavily teach in this certificate is what's that decision-making process? What are the outcome goals? How do you gain the information you need to make this decision? How do you make sure you're very complete in data and process? Make an informed decision. How to communicate about that decision, so that you can become a better decision maker within your company, but also so that you can communicate that to others. And I think that's a very important thing we teach, and a very important part of capital budgeting is not only to do the work correctly, but to do it in a way that communicates very well to your peers, your managers, your reports, why this is the right decision, or maybe why you should pass on a project, and be able to communicate that very well from data collection to analysis to predicted outcomes and how it influences the company. That will be the focus, that corporate finance plan. For the coursework, managerial finance will start with the structure of companies, from a sole proprietorship to a partnership up to a corporation. We teach most in the context of corporations because corporations have to disclose a large amount of financial information that allows us, to examine this information and to perform analysis and look at examples that are helpful for learning. Where private companies don't have to disclose that, they rarely do. But everything we teach, all these principles we teach, does apply to companies of all sizes. This will be, we go farther with this concept in corporate finance, but advanced corporate finance. But we start with the basics of, what is a company? What are the advantages of these different company formations? How do companies raise capital? How do they capital budget? That will be in the first managerial finance course. Kind of the groundwork of how a company operates, how decisions are made in the context of a corporation. But again, these principles apply to any size company. While I think everything in the certificate that relates to corporate finance, the analysis, the technical parts are very important. Just like communication of your findings and your process is important, the principles you learn, I think, are also equally important in terms of a thought process and a perspective that will make you a better decision maker because you have different angles, you have different ways of analyzing a problem. I'm going to go back to the first point. I think that this certificate will help you to pursue advancement, to change roles. But I also think it's extremely valuable, just as all the certificates are, in providing perspective. If you're like me and you like to learn about everything, getting one of these certificates, even if you're not changing fields, maybe you're in a job and you think you're going to stay there. There's a lot of finance involved. You're working with a lot of financial people. This could help you there also. The financial markets and institutions class, like the name sounds, learning about stock markets. Oh, I'm sorry, let me see if I can fix that. Learning about stock markets, is that better?
That's great, thank you.
Second. Learning about stock markets, bond markets, and that meshes well with managerial finance because that's how corporations fund, primarily through stocks and bonds. Learning about derivative markets, and then the other piece which applies to companies, large and small, from sole proprietorships to corporations, are financial institutions, so your banks, which are going to provide lending to companies of all these sizes. So some of that perspective, the funding perspective, but more focus on these markets and how they help the economy run. And within the capital budgeting process, acquiring capital, acquiring it at a good cost, and then deploying it. That's where we would go back to corporate finance with this class. And then third is the investments class. So again, another perspective. Managerial finance, how do stocks and bonds help companies acquire capital, deploy capital, and make a solid return on investment? Financial markets and institutions, how do these things fit into the larger economy and allow our economy to function well, allow us to be productive, allow us to have a higher standard of living? And then the investments is going to be yet a different focus on these financial instruments like stocks, bonds, and derivatives, where we think about those from an investor perspective, where instead of a company issuing stocks and bonds, as investors, we're buying stocks and bonds, we're buying derivatives, and we're doing this because we believe we can get a good risk-adjusted return on our investment. So a lot of techniques and methods for how to think about the value of securities based on companies' future cash flows, based on your risk tolerance, and based on where you think the economy is going. So a lot of different perspectives on these stocks and bonds, but you're seeing a theme with all the classes. Those are the things that are going to show up every time. Stocks and bonds, to a lesser degree, derivatives, and they fit into every every part of the economy. Companies issue stocks and bonds. As investors, we buy stocks and bonds, which gives the company capital and helps to grow the economy, helps to create jobs, and make our nation better off in terms of productivity. And then the last class is Advanced Corporate Finance, which is going to build on managerial finance, go into topics like cost of capital, advanced capital budgeting, mergers and acquisitions, payout policy, such as stock repurchases and dividends. So it's more topics that are going to build on the managerial finance class, but at the same time, it's more depth. What you get in the first managerial finance class is very important, very valuable, but after the second, the advanced corporate finance class, it does a lot more to operationalize that. They can use that in an even better, more advanced way with respect to solving those problems in your company, and then also communication and developing perspective and thinking about general principles that you can apply as you make your business decisions. So I think the finance certificate, I think, I'm sorry, I was just going to wrap up and say, I think the finance certificate is valuable to people in many different positions, and I hope you'll consider it. And I'll hang out in the Q&A room for a few minutes also, but also feel free to look me up and contact me directly.
Yeah, there's just one question that we have as well. I hope you can answer just very briefly. Like, how much finance experience do you think is needed to be successful in these courses? Do you have to have the work experience, or could you be directly from undergrad and have it conceptualized?
Well, so, something that's very important to us is to make the program accessible. If you're working in finance, in a finance dedicated role, or you have a finance undergraduate degree, you might find some repetition here. You're going to talk about things in a more advanced way, but I think there are some tools out there like the CFA certificate. That if you've been working in finance for a while, that's probably a better choice. So I think this is actually the way we teach it and who we have in mind. It's going to be people that aren't working in pure finance jobs. So it's very accessible to everyone.
That's excellent. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that. Very great and succinct definitions of the coursework as well. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them into our chat box. Thank you so much. And we are going to move on to human resources management. All right, so with us right now, we have our executive in residence, Professor Robert Fole, who has a very interesting law and corporate law background. So, Professor Fole, are you on the line and ready to talk about human resources management?
I am on the line. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Take it away.
Excellent. And I'm always willing to talk about human resources management because, after all, when we think about the lifeblood of a business, most people would say the lifeblood of the business are its people, right? And so today what I want to do is I just want to talk to you a little bit about the Human Resources Management Certificate that Ohio University is offering. And so, before I get started, I want to echo what Professor Benedict said a bit earlier. I'm hoping that as you have joined us, that you and your families and your loved ones are all doing okay and are safe in this unprecedented time. But of course, these unprecedented times also really necessitate an unprecedented thought when it comes to how to manage human resources that are in business. And so I think what you'll find after I talk about the Human Resources Management Certificate is I think you'll find that we have a certificate that offers a great opportunity to be able to take human resources-based principles and apply them not only to traditional environments, but also in environments that are quite unexpected in nature, like the ones that the one that we're living in right now. So let me talk just a little bit about this. Really what we're talking about when we're talking about a human resources management certificate is we're really talking about being able to have our students deliver outstanding business results through talent. That's really what we're trying to deal with here when it comes to the certificate. Delivering outstanding business results through the use of talent, through the engagement of talent. And so one of the first things that I always think about when I think about a certificate or a program like this is, who is this really designed for? Well, from our vantage point here, we designed the certificate really for, with two sets of people in mind, two sets of students in mind. The first set of students really are high-achieving talent who are ready to lead at the next level. So if you are in maybe in an individual contributor role in your organization and you are looking to, on the horizon of being a manager, or if you are a new manager already and you haven't received any real, in-house training or in-house development with respect to managing people, I think this Human Resources Management Certificate would be quite valuable to you. But it's also, I think, designed for HR professionals, especially new HR professionals, people who are going into the HR unit or the HR division or the HR function of a company, maybe for the first time, and need to get some base foundational knowledge on what does the HR landscape really look like. And then also maybe also for an HR professional who has some time in as an HR professional, but maybe needs to get some of the most current knowledge with respect to human resources in terms of human resource functions and human resource thought. So those are really who the program is really designed for. Those high achieving talent who's ready to lead at the next level, or perhaps the individual who's making a move into the HR function of an organization and needs to really get that foundational knowledge and foundational information on how to be successful in that sort of role. Now, there are three courses, as you can see on the slide. There are three courses that make up this Human Resources Management Certificate. And I want to take just a bit to talk about each of those three courses. I'm not going to talk about them in order. You heard that I have a background in corporate law, so that very first course is near and dear to my heart, although I didn't put it first there. So, and you can take these courses in any order as well. But I'm going to talk about from the third course to the second, and then to the first one listed. So, the first course is our course on performance management and total rewards. And so, what this is really about is really understanding that performance, compensation, and benefit systems are critical to attracting, motivating, and rewarding high talented employees. So if we start at the very idea of the fact that if we're trying to deliver outstanding business results through talent, you have to get the right talent in the door and in the right places. And so that's really about thinking about talent performance. How are we going to compensate talent? And so what type of compensation packages and benefits make sense? And how are we going to ensure that we're attracting, motivating, and rewarding those high-performing employees? And so in this course, you're gonna think about different types of performance appraisal systems. You're going to be able to establish and communicate performance objectives and performance standards. You're going to be able to think about and conduct performance appraisal feedback sessions. You're going to learn how to coach employees for developmental purposes, and you're going to really think about having credible merit increase and incentive award programs as well. So those are some of the things that you're going to talk about here in this performance management and total rewards track or class. And so let's go from there and let's talk a little bit about the class right above it here on the slide. And that's the Talent Acquisitions in Strategic Management class. Talent Acquisitions in Strategic Management. This is really about examining talent management from the enterprise or the macro perspective. You know, the performance management and total rewards is about, getting people in, performance, compensation, benefit programs that attract and retain high-performing talent. The talent acquisitions and strategic management class is really about taking a step back and looking at this from a macro perspective. What types of talent, how do we manage talent from an enterprise level to ensure that we're delivering outstanding business results through talent? And so this is really about the essential contribution of talent for actually executing the business's strategy, its strategic plan. So how do you leverage talent to ensure that the business's strategic plan gets executed in the way that the business wants? And so in this course, you're going to do a number of different things. You're going to be talking about job descriptions and preparing market analysis and recruiting strategies and candidate assessment criteria. You're going to be able to create or use talent assessment and development tools, completing basic readiness assessments and succession planning processes. You're going to be able to be strategically mapping career paths. You're going to talk about succession planning, when it comes to talent planning and those sorts of things. So it's the more macro view rather than the micro view. And then let me talk about the class again that I said it's near and dear to my heart. This is the employee relations, ethics, and legal aspects of human resource management. What this is really about human resources and labor law. Doesn't take very long to know, even if you're just an employee someplace, doesn't take very long to realize that there are a lot of laws and a lot of regulations that apply to human resources, right? There are a lot of laws and regulations that talk about what rights employees have, what duties employers owe to employees, and these are the types of things that we'll explore in this particular class. It's really all about understanding the laws and the regulations that apply to employers, and it's about understanding the legal risks that are out there to make sure that your employer or you as a manager are taking appropriate legal risks in accordance with your risk appetite. And so in order to do that, you need to understand what those laws and regulations are and what they mean. After all, if you're going to deliver outstanding business results through talent, you're going to want to keep the fruit of those results, right? You don't want to have to pay those outstanding business results out in legal awards, legal settlements, and those sorts of things. And so we'll talk quite a bit about the different laws and regulations that apply throughout the talent chain, from all the way from recruiting employees to the work environment and the work setting, all the way through separation of employees from employment with the employer as well. So those are the three courses that you'll be learning about with respect to this certificate. But I would be remiss if I didn't talk a little bit about the faculty. And so the three faculty members, including myself, we all come from a perspective of having performed these functions for years in industry. We all have 25 years of industry experience. And so let me talk just a little bit about the faculty here. So for your performance management and total rewards course, that course is taught by Tammy Reynolds. And Tammy has 25 years of human resources management experience in Fortune 500 companies. She led the human resource management organization for the North American operations of Whirlpool Corporation. So she'll be talking about performance management and total rewards from having done it for many years. With respect to the talent acquisition and strategic management course, that will be taught by Tim Reynolds. And Tim also has 25 years of human resource management experience in Fortune 500 companies. And he was the vice president of talent organization effectiveness for Whirlpool Corporation. So he'll be talking about that macro perspective from having been the vice president of talent and organization effectiveness for Whirlpool. And then me, as you heard, I'm a corporate lawyer. I spent 25 years of practicing law, compliance, and ethics in-house for multinational organizations. I was the former chief legal officer of an international organization where I oversaw, among other things, the human resources function for that international organization. And I, again, had 25 years of experience, and a good amount of experience came from being at Target Corporation. I was the former director of corporate ethics and corporate compliance for Target Corporation, as well as working in-house from a legal perspective as well. So you could probably guess that from that faculty, what you're going to get is you're going to get courses that have a strong practical focus that will provide you with immediately actionable knowledge and information to take back to you in your workplace and to your employer. Last thing that I would say is this certificate itself is actually stackable into the Masters of Science in Management program. So if you would decide that after taking this that you want to further or you want to get an advanced degree, and this course or this program, the certificate, would drop right into the Master of Science in Management program here in the College of Business at Ohio University. All right, I know you guys have gone through a lot here, hearing about a lot of different certificates, and there's some more to come, so I'm just going to stop right there, and I'm going to check in to see if there are any questions that you might have with respect to the Human Resources Management Certificate at Ohio University.
Thanks so much, Professor Full. We actually do have one question that I think the whole group would love to hear about. Does this HR certificate align with eligibility to become SHRM certified?
Yeah, so the question, so SHRM, at this point, we have not taken these three courses and done any sort of alignment with the SHRM requirements for SHRM certification. So the answer to that is, by taking these three courses, you're not going to immediately be able to get your SHRM certification. Although I think what you will find is that a lot of the topics that we are talking about within the Human Resources Certificate will give you an in-depth knowledge of a number of the areas that are important for SHRM certification.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, and thank you for your passion. Moving right along, and again, if you have any questions for Professor Full, feel free to pop them in the question and answer box. But we are moving on to our Management and Leadership Certificate. And with us, we have Dr. Amy Taylor-Bianco, who is not only this certificate lead, but she is also our program director for the Master of Science in Management program. And I have a few slides at the end of this, so if you wanted to stick around to the end to figure out if that program was right for you, feel free to do so. Dr. Taylor-Bianco, are you on the line?
Yes, good evening.
Hi.
Hi. All right. Well, I've enjoyed hearing from my colleagues about the various certificates here at Ohio University in the College of Business. And I want to tell you that if you're on this webinar, honestly, everyone you've heard from right now, depending on your area of interest, you've heard from incredible people. We have just an incredible faculty. And I know that you Bobcats out there that are coming back to see us on this webinar, and people who just know about Ohio University know how special of a place it is. So thank you for being here. Thank you, colleagues, but also just thank you, all the participants. I know it's kind of a lot to do right now. It seems like we have all this free time, but at the same time, we are probably working harder than ever. Your lives have changed a lot. You're managing a lot of complexity, probably both at work and at home, and you're managing an unprecedented time. So I want to thank everybody for being here. Thank you also to my former students from New York, as well as the ones from Ohio, just for showing up. I really appreciate that. So I want to talk to you about the Management and Leadership Certificate. So this certificate is a strategic leadership certificate, much like the HR certificate that is focused on sort of strategic, high-level decision-making with information and analytics. This certificate is similarly positioned. So we've designed this certificate specifically for this audience in mind. So there's sort of two groups of people. So you may come from a lot of different backgrounds and areas, and you may want to gain current knowledge and skills in leadership and management at this time in managing complexity and change, being able to make decisions, being able to take a very high-level view at analytics and see what you need to do next, identify trends, solve problems. So that may be where you're coming in, or you may be coming in after years have gone by where you studied these topics, and now you're kind of interested in getting back involved and seeing, you know, what we're doing now. So as I talk to you, I think a lot about the first class that I taught. I was actually in New York, and it was during 9/11, and I managed that situation. We all did, right? We managed that situation, that kind of crisis that was hard for many, many of us, but also at the same time had its other side of bringing us closer. So this certificate is really has a lot to do with managing leadership and change during difficult times that may be personal difficult, but maybe opportunities as well. So in this certificate, you'll learn from 3 different faculty members. So it's just a 9-credit certificate. It's really short and sweet, but we have very talented, qualified faculty members, some award-winning faculty members, Jana Tamelli and Grigorios Livanos. And everybody has some industry background. So I was in consulting beforehand at PricewaterhouseCoopers and JP Morgan. So everybody has some industry background. We don't have 25 years of experience, though. I will tell you that. We probably have more experience in education, but managing that balance, right, of learning, kind of case-based learning with what's currently going on. So you're here because you're choosing to invest in your future by listening to this webinar, just getting information, right? Learning, deciding if upskilling in this way in some small segment or maybe even a larger segment of a degree is useful for you. I think what makes all of these certificates very valuable is you can decide to upskill in one area and then take a little time, maybe start a new job, maybe get back to business in your current job, and then you can take another certificate. These are all various positioning, but a lot of them are stackable in the Masters of Science in Management, the MBA or the Analytics degree, and the MBA. So why would you pursue the Management and Leadership one? Why would that be for you? Well, let me say first that people are a part of every business. So people and learning what to do with them. So I'm an organizational psychologist. I study people in business, and there'll never be a lack of work, right? So people are always involved. We have to make choices to lead strategically forward. As technology is changing, as more and more analytics are available, as we're using more artificial intelligence and other ways to manage, the human component becomes even more important. Yet we need to know how to blend that human component with everything that's available to us. So we need to identify the trends that are going on, look at the problems and opportunities, diagnose the situation, and create opportunities and changes going forward, whether that's an entrepreneurial opportunity, a financial opportunity, an opportunity in business analytics, right, in any of these areas. So to take you through the courses, you have a course in managing individuals and teams. So in that course, you're going to learn about yourself. You're going to learn about, do some self-assessments and some work on yourself, which is not only good right now, but really good at any time. So how do you manage yourself and your career in these times? What do you need to know about yourself to work with people in this different environment? And you may say, I already know myself really well. Well, I'm, 50 years old, a little older than that, but we'll just say 50. I know myself pretty well too, but there's still a ton that I can learn, especially when I am with other colleagues and students who give me great feedback. Not great because I like it, right? But great because it's useful, because it helps me grow. So these courses are set up to have really high involvement with your professor and the other students so that you get that feedback. The feedback is extremely important. It's important for you professionally, and it's important as you go forward in the other courses. So researching the business environment says, okay, well, we know a little bit about you. What about you in this environment? What about your industry in this environment? So what is managing this environment like at this time? Again, it gives you kind of a high-level use of analytics, and it helps you to manage yourself and others in the business environment. Managerial decisions and challenges is just that. It kind of blends the two courses, pulls it all together, and how are you going to use it? So you have this information, great information. Information's collected every day. What are you going to do with it? And how are you going to avoid your biases and the biases of your team and those around you to make the best decisions possible? So this program is really it develops strategic leaders who want to become aware of the personal capabilities in decision-making and creating a strategic mindset. It also is a program like the others here that I just want to put a pitch for, is taught by faculty. So we're your faculty that design the courses. We have PhDs in these areas. We also have a lot of industry experience. We design the courses and we teach the courses. I'm beginning to see more and more that that's not true everywhere. Every place has its unique blend, but I just want to let you know that that is true here, that we design the courses, teach them, and work closely together. So these certificates are put together not just as 3 different courses, but as a sort of in concert, a combination of courses, a combination of, sort of chords that come together to help you manage yourself and others as you move forward in these times. So I'm glad to stay around. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I'm happy to talk to you about this certificate being the only required certificate for the Masters of Management and Science. So it's the 3-course required certificate. It can get you started, but you can also start that program with any of the other certificates. So we'll talk more about that program later, but this is the one required certificate. It's this certificate and a capstone, and then 2 other certificates of your choice. So we're really trying to give you a menu of options to upskill in the way that you need for your future. Thank you.
That's so awesome. Thanks so much, Dr. Taylor Bianco and try not to spoil the rest of the content. But I did have a question about the management and leadership certificate. So who would you say can benefit most from this certificate? Do you think it's like recent grads, or is it someone like me who's like mid-level in my career but wants the skills to move up in my role?
Yeah, we've really thought a lot about this. So originally we were designing for people at a sort of higher level that wanted, maybe like yourself, that wanted to move up in their career. But we've got sort of bridges and ladders involved. So we've got different modules depending on what your background is coming in. So there's a little bit of data collection when you enter and figuring out the best program for you. And so I would say that whether you're a recent graduate or you're more experienced in some ways, I think you can benefit from it. Regardless, we're going to draw on whatever work or organizational experience you have, whether it's student organizations or whether it's corporate experience at your nonprofit organization, whatever it is, we're going to draw on that and try to tailor a program for you. Does that answer the question?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes, it certainly does. I was also wondering, Is it like case study based? Is it group work? What kind of course work are we looking at here?
Yeah, so there's some of both. It definitely is, we give you data and information, sort of a case example on a particular industry, and that kind of changes over time, but we give you an example to work through, and then you actually create your own proposal for your or another person's organization. So you use what you've learned to create a proposal to assist, to help diagnose and solve a problem within that organization. So there is some teamwork, but we do try to also be very aware of people's time and the need to do a lot of it asynchronously, as well as some synchronous work as well. So we do a little bit of both, but it's very, very practical and applied.
That's awesome. It sounds like it's also a portfolio builder as well. So thank you so much for that. Again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to pop those into the Q&A. We are going to talk about the Master of Science in Leadership a little bit later, but I wanted to move on to the Operations and Supply Chain Management Certificate. So joining us, we have the Professor of Operations Management, Dr. Khurram Buddha, and he teaches both the undergrad and graduate programs in the Operations Management area. Hello, Dr. Buddha, are you here?
Hi, Carrie. How are you doing?
Doing great, thanks. Talk to us a little bit about the operations and supply chain.
Yeah, well, I mean, trying to come up after Amy is always a challenge. She's so enthusiastic about what she talks about, so I'm going to try to follow in her footsteps. Basically, this certificate is kind of geared around processes, and I'm so glad that Dr. Taylor Barron could kind of talk about people when she was talking about her leadership certificate. So this kind of dovetails with that certificate as well, by kind of looking at processes. And the way that we have kind of looked at the processes is basically dividing the process into three broad categories, which basically make up the three courses. The first of those is the operations course. The operations course is designed to equip students to try to understand the fundamentals of operations, both from a service perspective as well as a manufacturing perspective. The idea of trying to see, what are the various aspects that make up an operations. How do we essentially convert inputs into outputs while adding value? That's kind of the big thing in this course. How do I add value by doing things in a more efficient, in a more effective manner. And then the second part of this course kind of talks a little bit about project management. I mean, I wish I could kind of have two separate courses listed here, but really the emphasis is to try to get students up to speed. This course is applicable for students who have either been working in operations and project management and want to kind of get updated in their skill set. It'll also work for those people who don't necessarily work in operations, but work with people who are in operations. So trying to understand the language that goes in there, trying to understand how people are interacting. Project management is something that we all kind of engage with, many times unknowingly. So this is a good kind of a stepping stone in trying to understand project management. So that's that first course in that sequence. By the way, you don't have to take any of these courses in any particular sequence, I should say that, but just kind of in the list, I should say. The second one there is management of Lean Six Sigma programs. So whenever you're involved with processes, the idea of trying to improve them. I mean, essentially, if you talk to your employers, what they want out of you is basically adding value, kind of creating more than what exists there. And Lean Six Sigma is a way of trying to improve your processes. This course will go through the DMAIC cycle, look at some of the basics and fundamentals of Six Sigma, kind of go through looking at, what are the different data type of requirements and so forth to try to do that. And the way we have designed all three of these courses, by the way, is kind of incorporating cases. In the operations course, for example, you also have a simulation that is being used. So all of these courses are hands-on. The third course that you have there, the supply chain risk course, it's kind of amazing. I was kind of, as I was preparing for this seminar, I was kind of thinking, what's happening to us all, at this moment. With COVID around us, just imagine the impact on supply chains for virtually every company. So how do you manage that risk? First of all, how do you even identify that risk? So the identification of risk, the mitigation of that risk, setting up processes that can help you kind of overcome obstacles. Amy earlier talked about September 11th. I've lived through September 11th. I've lived through Katrina, the hurricane in New Orleans, and now COVID. And just kind of, it's unimaginable to me the impact of these type of either man-made or natural disasters and the impact of those on our supply chains. So these three courses kind of dovetail into each other, kind of looking more at processes. All three of them are part of the Masters of Science program, management program. And two of these courses, the Lean Six Sigma course and the Supply Chain Risk course, are also part of the online MBA program. So it also kind of gets into the supply chain concentration for the MBA program. By the way, if you have any questions that come along, just pass them along. I'll be happy to take them as I kind of go through my own spiel. The other thing that I wanted to kind of talk about is very often when people hear the word, operations, we often kind of think of production. But these three courses are specifically geared for both environments, the production environment as well as the service environment. A little later on, I'll talk a little bit about the faculty that are involved, and you'll kind of, get the background of them and see where these courses came from. Earlier, Dr. Taylor Bianco kind of talked about, how the faculty here at OU kind of use their experiences. They develop these courses not just from an academic perspective, but from a practical, from an application perspective as well. And so you'll see that in this sequence of three courses as well. The other thing that I want to kind of talk about is, I kind of touched upon the audience just a little bit, but a little bit in more specifically, regardless of where you are in your career, right? Either you are starting your career, you're in the middle of your career, or you're kind of getting to that, ending point in your career. Learning is important. I myself have been kind of in the operations field for the past, 30, 35 years or so. And every time I teach this course, by the way, I teach the operations and project management course. Every time I teach this course, I'm learning something from my students. And that's kind of a big thing throughout our programs. You pick up any of the OU's programs, you will see the amount of interaction that's there between the students and the faculty, the interaction between students and faculty to faculty interaction. And we've kind of designed these courses to kind of highlight and kind of emphasize those that interaction as well. The other thing that I wanted to kind of briefly touch upon is the three faculty. So like I said, I kind of deal with the operations and the project management course, a little bit of my own background. I have a mechanical engineering background, did an MBA in operations. At that time, we used to call it production management. Now we call it operations management. And then a PhD in operations management from the University of Texas in Arlington. I have been teaching for a number of years now, but I'm also actively involved as a consultant with different companies, different corporations. As an engineer, I have worked with, bottling plants, soft drink bottling plants. I've worked with textile industry, and like I said, I've done consultancy for a number of companies. The lean management course is taught by Dr. Ashley Metcalf. She also has an engineering background. She's actually a chemical engineer. She's worked in a number of different companies, including Johnson & Johnson. She's also done consultancy. And she comes to us from a healthcare perspective more recently. Her PhD was in operations in the healthcare industry and trying to improve the processes in the healthcare industry. The Six Sigma course, the supply chain risk course is taught by Dr. Marco Haberman. He comes to us with a background in operations management, and he has an MBA, believe it or not, in finance as well. So he's kind of a multifaceted individual. His primary research area is actually supply chain disruptions. So you can imagine how busy he is right now, kind of looking at those impacts and the supply chain risk kind of coming from there. He's also done a lot of consultancy, investment banking. He's worked with Deutsche Bank. He's worked with McKinsey, Land's End, among other companies as well. So that's kind of a brief overview of the three courses, as well as the three faculty that are involved in teaching those. And again, I can't stress this enough in terms of, how these three courses are trying to look at the procedural and the processes. How do we kind of make a difference in whatever we're doing, and regardless of which functional area in an organization that we are.
Very
Gary,
good. Thank you for that.
For me?
Yeah, so, operations and supply chain, as you stated earlier, has been in the news quite a bit recently. How do you foresee the job market being for people who might sort of be interested in this certificate? Do you think that it is going to be a field that's in demand?
I cannot imagine otherwise. Just look at one company. Look at Amazon right now, right? They are sourcing from all over the world. And with this supply chain disruptions happening, how do we get those things to our customers? How do we prioritize what we are going to ship? When are we going to ship them? Right? How are we going to ship them? In fact, just yesterday I was talking to my son. He wanted to buy, these new Apple iPods, iPods. I'm not even sure what they call them. And we kind of looked them up, and they're being shipped to us from China. So my question to Apple right now would be, why didn't you have them in stock in the U.S.? Is it something that they've been marketing for a while? My own kind of guess over here they did not envision that COVID would hit us quite as severely as it has. And so they were kind of operating in the normal procedural kind of way. Hey, no worries, we can kind of ship things from China or anywhere around the world in a couple of days. But now with the supply chain all in disruption, distribution kind of systems out of whack, how do we get things moving? I cannot envision a world where we would not have need for any one of these courses. In fact, all of these certificates, I've been sitting and kind of listening to my colleagues talk about the other certificates as well. And that's really where these certificates are coming from. We've listened to the employers, we've listened to the people who are in the industry, and we have built these certificates around topics that are current and that are future looking. Harry?
Yeah, that was my next question. Do you foresee the coursework being case study based or even like take a client and then do a project based off of that?
Sure. There are certainly case studies. I know Ashley in our Lean Six Sigma course does quite a lot of case studies. I mentioned that I actually in the operations course use a simulation. So it's going to be a mix of cases and simulations. To the best of my knowledge, I don't think we're using any live clients in any of these three courses, but we certainly bring in, the most updated information that we possibly can every time we teach. And like I was saying earlier, I mean, the learning that goes on when you have a class, a class of students who are, who are working. I mean, the type of interaction, the type of learning that goes on, peer-to-peer learning that goes on in that class is amazing. And we try to leverage that in all of our classes.
That's awesome.
Sorry?
Well, thank you so much. That was very insightful. If you have any questions for Dr. Buddha, please feel free to put them into our question and answer box. But thank you, sir. I love it. This is certainly a hot topic right now, and it's very, very
certainly is. It's a very exciting time for us from that point of view. But for the rest of you, do stay safe. I'll stick around if we have any questions, Gary.
Excellent. Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
We are at our last certificate right now. So here we are, friends. We're at the Strategic Sales and Sales Leadership Certificate. If you stuck around this long, thank you so much. We are joined by Dr. Nicholas Panagopoulos, who is a director of our Executive Education and International Sales at the Shea Sales Center. Dr. Panagopoulos, could you take us through the Strategic Sales and Sales Leadership Certificate?
Absolutely. That will be my pleasure. Good evening, everyone, wherever you are. I'm Dr. Panagopoulos, and I am super excited to be here with you. I know it's getting very late for everybody, so I will try to be as quick as possible. So, as was mentioned before, I am the responsible person for the Strategic Sales and Sales Leadership Certificate. If there are any questions about this, please direct those questions to me, and I will be happy to answer them if I know the answer, of course, as long as this is not about administrative, let's say, issues and topics. So our sales certificate is all about sales. So I don't think there's any need for introduction about, the importance of sales out there, the demand generation function, either offline or online. This is what we're trying to do. We have a magnificent team in our Shea Sales Center. I bet that most of you, if not all of you, are aware by now of what the Shea Sales Center stands for. We're the number one, at least in the U.S., sales center. We have a magnificent team, as I said before, of individuals, all of them great scholars in sales research. Many of us in the Shea, and specifically those that we teach in the sales certificate at the MBA level, we have very extensive corporate experiences, and I'll talk about that for a moment. Like, for instance, myself, speaking about me, I have about 20 years, at least 20 years, experiences working, consulting with companies and training them as well, but primarily consulting with them here in the U.S., in Europe, in Asia, and elsewhere. Many of them, at least 12 or 14 of them are in Fortune 500. So you guys are going to see that reflected in the content, in the way we approach you, in the way we deal with sales issues, cutting edge, what's really hot right now. How do we approach customers in this era, in this new reality? How do we leverage the digital analytics and the other analytics in sales as well? These are all included. As you can see on the slide, the last class is all about sales analytics. But to give you, I bet it would be important if I can just give you a quick, short overview about the three courses. As you can see, we have the building and developing customer relationships. This is about the salesperson who works at the front lines, and she or he is actually touching base with customers, trying to make a sale, close a sale, negotiating with the customer, asking questions and understanding what's going on, reading nonverbals, and all these difficult relational capabilities that go with a sales profession. If I just may add over here that this first class is very useful for anybody who is actually seeing himself or herself being, in close contact with someone, either within the organization or outside the organization. Anytime you go in front, and when I say in front nowadays, we're talking about, online, offline interactions, and you are actually trying to convince them and persuade them, we're talking about leveraging sales skills, building relationships, understanding needs, and then persuading someone. So that will be very useful for anybody who can foresee, like I said before, himself or herself touching base with someone that they need to influence. Then the sales leadership, the second course, is all about leading sales professionals. In other words, those people who are in charge of a sales team or a bigger sales organization. Here we're talking about, how do you find, how do you recruit, how do you train them, the salespeople, how do you fire them up, motivate them, how do you compensate them, how do you divide them across different territories, online and offline. There's no difference in the way we're managing that. And then, excuse me, the last class, as I said before, is about sales analytics. Now, this is a completely new course, and for many universities, I would say for most universities, at least in the U.S., this is completely new. So we are very glad we have this as well in our curriculum. The sales analytics will guide you and walk you through the most important decisions we face in sales and sales management, personal selling, and sales management. Like, for instance, how do you predict the value, the profitability, or the customer lifetime value of a specific customer or a group of customers? How do you forecast sales? What kind of algorithms can we use to forecast sales and not use just, intuition and things like that? Then other things we can do is, how do we allocate sales resources? Why we should do 5 sales calls, online, offline, doesn't really matter. Why we should touch base with the XYZ customer twice a month and not just 3 times or just once. So, and that obviously, as everybody on the line right now knows very well, that has an immense influence on the profitability, on the productivity, and the bottom line of the organization. So in a nutshell, the sales analytics class is all about using the algorithms. We're using a specific software so we can make informed decisions based on some of the most important algorithms, I dare to say, in statistics right now. Using this software that actually can be very quickly be learned within the class with this 6-7 weeks course, and then take this software if you desire to do that and adopt this also in your companies, in your organizations, because this can be easily, related and associated with other software, CRM softwares, and so on that we're using within companies. Based on my experiences, that's like a weekend from your IT department to bridge everything together. But we're not using, if you ask me, do we use Excel? No, we're not using Excel. I do not like Excel. So I don't think this is very sophisticated enough to run the algorithms we want to do in our class. If you ask me about the sales analytics, is it too mathematical? No, it's not. It has barely any mathematics and statistics into it, although the algorithms are super powerful. It's just the way that the software is designed in such a way that we, the managers, we, the leaders, we do not need to spend and dare to say waste time in learning this. This is for other people in other functions, in business analytics, in data science and statisticians, for instance, but not for sales leaders. So this is it in a nutshell. This is our positioning. We are once again, I believe the most important thing that we are actually selling over to you right now is that we have a magnificent team of people with significant experience working with companies, not just academics, but the academics of our unit are elite academics publishing in the best journals we have, in the elite and top journals. So you guys are covered in both ways, academic side and the corporate side. We are now in the position to say that we are one of the best sales centers, at least in the U.S., in a university setting. So we're very proud of this curriculum. Please ask me any questions you might have.
Certainly. Thank you for that. So I just about had a heart attack when you said Excel is not in this course, because that's like the one thing I'm actually good at. But tell us a little bit more about the programs that you use then, if it's not Excel. What software?
Yeah, the program is Ingenious. Ingenious is a commercial software platform which is only for marketing and sales analytics. So it's a very specialized software. Ingenious. Once again, if you guys want to just Google that and you'll find that. It's pretty let's say fancy in the sense that it's very user friendly, and that's a pain always for busy sales professionals. We do not have any time for, learning new tricks and new, mathematical functions or anything like that, simply because that's not related to our job. So what Ingenious does is that it gives you a super friendly interface. Now the salespeople on the line would love this, because it takes like about half an hour in the first week to watch the software video that I have prepared on how to use that. And then once you, by the end of this 30-minute or something like that video, you're just, ready to hit the ground running and just, click and, get your data imported from Excel or any other format and just click the algorithm and estimate anything you want. So this is it in a nutshell.
Very good. Thank you for that. So what type of person do you think would be a good fit for the sales leadership certificate? Is it someone who's already working in sales, or is it someone who maybe is in marketing and would like to learn a little bit more about sales?
Yeah, well, I would say, 95% of the people who would benefit from this, these are the people who are already in sales, or they're just, seriously thinking about, moving into sales. We had in this, previous semester, in the first cohort of this, I did have some, a few people from outside, strictly speaking, sales, the side of ours, and they were from marketing and analytics, one of them, and they were very satisfied with everything they saw. Well, simply because, as everybody knows on the line right now, we are rotating across functions. We're working in teams. So if I, as a salesperson, like, using the example of the previous certification, if I know about operations and, operations management, and if I can understand about, supply chain, that is an advantage for a salesperson. So, but primarily this is targeted at people who are either currently in sales at any different sales level, like, early stage in their career, season that they want to retool and up-tool and reskill themselves in learning something new. Leaders of an organization that they want to make strategic decisions about, for instance, how do you make forecasts about a specific market, sales forecasts, and how do you allocate resources? Some of the sales leaders that we work with, they're managing like a budget of millions, right? So anytime you have more than, say, 50 salespeople in your organization and you are making a change, like, for instance, changing the number and the frequency and the duration of a sales call, for instance, that's just one example I can give, or changing the training, that can cost like several millions in, many, big companies out there. I hope does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you. Can you tell me a little bit about some of the softer skills? Because, a lot about, well, what I assume about sales is that, it's a lot about relationship building. Like, does the coursework at all talk about, communication, building rapport with customers, anything like that?
Well, you said it all. It's all about, building rapport. That's very important. Yeah, this is what we do. We have this 6 selling step process, which is something that practitioners and academics were using throughout the years. And we have actually adapted this to our course, this 6-step selling process, which, of course, the very first step is about, learning about your customers, about prospects, about, leads out there. And then it's very analytical, this first step. And then we're talking about, approaching the customer by asking questions and understanding whether there's a fit between our solutions and our products and their needs, their business needs. And then we're moving to more even softer issues like negotiations, like how do you influence others? How do you, build bridges, relational bridges with the customer? How do you overcome the objections that very often we in sales, we are confronted with? And this is something that actually can be taught. There are specific objections out there, like, for instance, price objections, the product is not very good, and things like that. And we're learning how to tackle those issues in our course. This is the first course. Actually, this is the building and developing customer relationships, to be specific. So we're learning about the communication approaches as well, or the social styles. Like, for instance, simply by listening to me speaking right now, a trained sales leader or a sales professional can classify me into one of 4 different quadrants or social styles. So simply by listening to me and by knowing what social style do I fit in, they can adapt their approach and their questioning techniques and the way they handle my objections and my time and so on and so forth.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. And I love that you can do this and learn all of that within just like a certificate. So within such a short amount of time, you could really, really use these skills and probably apply it immediately to any job that you're working in. Wow, that's awesome. So thank you. Thank you for that, Dr. Panagopoulos. Yes, so if you all have any questions for Dr. Panagopoulos, feel free to pop them in the question and answer box. We have finished our certificates. I just wanted to very quickly, before we jump back over to our management and leadership, Master of Science in Management, talk about our admissions requirements for a certificate. So the admissions requirements are a little bit different than the full master's degree. We do ask that you do have a bachelor's degree, so this is a graduate certificate. The GPA is 3.0 or higher, but do not fret, actually. If you have less than a 3.0 undergraduate GPA, all you need to do is submit an additional personal statement along with your application materials. And in this personal statement, you're just going to discuss, your academic goals, your professional goals, and any of the things that you want to talk about your undergraduate coursework. So no worries if you're under a 3.0. We will need the transcripts from all colleges. If you are thinking you're going to be starting we just finished the summer, so the fall, and some colleges are having difficulties being closed, we can work with you in regards to getting official transcripts. Obviously, if you're an Ohio University undergrad, we can work with you as well. And then we'd love if you provide us your current resume. So much of this is, as you've heard, very relatable to your work experience, and we just want to make sure that you're in the right fit. So always have your resume up to date, but also provide that to us so that we can take a look at it. We do have a small application fee of $35. A lot of times, though, we do waive that application fee. So if you are interested in applying for our summer B or our fall, just make sure you reach out to us and we can provide you an application fee waiver, especially if you're joining us tonight. We know how long you stuck around with us. You can say that Kim said that you can have an application fee, and I'd be more than happy to make that happen for you. And then the great thing about our graduate business certificates is that there's no GRE or GMAT. so don't even have to worry about that either. So very simple application process for our graduate business certificates. If you are sticking around for us, I do have some slides here about our Master of Science in Management. So all of these certificates that we've heard about, not all of them, but a lot of them do roll up into this degree. And Dr. Taylor Bianco, who I think is still on the line with us, she is our program director for this program. So what I love about the Master of Science in Management is that it is a truly, truly customizable degree where, again, you do start with the Master Management and Leadership certificate, but then from there, if you're thinking about comboing a certificate anyway, you might as well just do one more and you'll get an entire master's degree out of it. So, Dr. Taylor Bianco, are you still on the line? Do you want to talk a little bit about the MSN? Awesome, thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it is completely customizable to your needs within the boundaries of the certificates that we offer. And we do have that management and leadership certificate that we encourage people to take early on. But you also can take other certificates first. So again, the whole program, right, is the Management and Leadership Certificate, 2 certificates of your choice. So say you choose, operations and human resources or whatever you choose, those 2 certificates of your choice, and then you do a capstone project. So in each certificate, again, the great thing about the certificate, so in each certificate, you will do a little mini kind of project proposal, so that when you get to your capstone, you'll have something to work with, so that you can then do a project based on your interest areas and expertise. Another great thing about the program is that it's kind of a stop in and stop out. So you could focus on a certificate, get that done, and then I know when I used to work in accounting, right? So the spring was really, really busy with tax season, so I wouldn't have taken anything then, but then I would have jumped in a certificate after that, maybe 2, then taken some time off, gone to another certificate. So it's we work with you, it's flexible around your needs. The coursework is 100% online. And thank you to our fearless assistant dean. It can be completed in as few as 6 semesters. If you're doing it, part-time, there are different options. So the classes are taught, again, by faculty who are experts in the area, who designed the curriculum. And I want to just highlight that the Walter Center for Strategic Leadership, which is one of the country's leading centers on strategic leadership, the only center in the country that actually starts at the undergraduate level to teach students about being strategic leaders at that level. So not just leading yourselves, but leading within your organization. So they put on the leadership development program, and that is essentially a 2-day sequence offered probably in different formats, we'll see, but that brings in industry experts, faculty experts, and really helps lead you forward. So that center is led by Tim Reynolds, who was the director of talent for 25 years, who is one of the leaders in the human resource certificate. And I work in that center as academic director. So I think what's really nice is that the management and, Masters of Science in Management collaborates really well with the Walter Center, that great experience that we've put on for so many MBA students, that some of you may have even heard about it, and for so many different online students, and then all of our different grad programs. So again, you just need a bachelor's degree from an accredited university with a GPA of a 3.0 or higher. I probably shouldn't be the one talking about this end of it, but I'll quickly say the transcripts that Kim was talking about, your resume. She talked about the fee and the fee waiver. And yeah, Kim, maybe I'll let you or Carrie kind of take it from here.
No worries. So actually, if you are interested in learning just more about the Master of Science in Management degree program, we have another webinar coming up next week at actually on Wednesday of next week at noon. And if you are interested, I'll pop some of that information into our group chat and you can hang out. It's not 2 hours. It's only like 30 minutes, I promise.
Yeah, it's really short.
But we can get into great details about that program as well. So actually, I'll just go ahead and wrap it up because I know we're over time now. So thank you all so much for joining us. My contact information and my team's contact information is on the screen right now. If you are interested in our summer B courses or our fall as well, you can certainly reach out to us at that email address, admissions@onlineprograms.ohio.edu. Just let them know that Kim sent you if you're emailing like right now, right tonight, before I can get this list over to them about the application fee waiver, and I'll certainly be able to get that over to you. But if you have any other questions at all or would have any follow-up questions for our faculty, you can also send those questions over to that email address, and I'll make sure that they get to the right people. So thank you all so much for joining us this evening. I hope that you found the information valuable, and we look forward to welcoming you as our future Business Bobcat.